There we go. I guess we are live here. Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Uh, we are a minute before we get started, so I'm just making sure that everything is working fine. While people tune in, a quick introduction. I am Ravi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Centio VR, and I'm joined by Vineeth, Managing Director
Yeah,
of Blitzmind Studios. Hi, Vineeth.
pleasure.
Welcome to the live stream.
Hi, Ravi. Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
Great. So, we have a very new format this time around, Vineet, where we're trying to actually bring people like you who are using new technologies in architecture, getting success out of it, and willing to share those learnings. So I'm hoping that this would be a very interactive session that people can learn a lot from. And to
Absolutely.
manage the session, we have a very simple slideshow that we will keep as our reference point. And
Sure.
I'll just give people a quick idea around what are the things we want to talk about today. Obviously, starting with our quick introduction, I want to jump straight into the challenges and workflows architects face, Vinny, right? Especially when
Right.
it comes to creating client presentations. All your explorations into new technologies like AI and VR is where we will spend some more time, and then probably go into a very specific workflow which you have cracked, how to create client presentations using Enscape and Sentio VR, a couple of case studies in large scale projects that you have seen good success, and
Right.
move from there to where this is going. Does that sound like a good idea?
Absolutely. Let's get started.
Fantastic. So why don't we get started with a little bit about you, Vinny? Let us know about your background, your trajectory, and Blitzmind Studios.
Right. So I'm an architect with around 16 years of experience. I started my career in Mumbai. I've done most of my practice there. I worked with Hafiz Contractor, India's one of the best architects in India. Then I worked with Reliance Industries, one of the biggest companies in India. And then I moved to Bangalore to join a firm called KGD Architecture. I worked there for about 6 to 7 years. And then, I thought it's good time for me to start a firm of my own. Because in my last firm, when I was a PD director, had this challenge always, right? So clients used to come us to us and say, okay, I need this presentation, I need it yesterday. So always this is a thing in Indian construction industry, right? The lack of time. They're always on fire, always want it now, yesterday. There is no talk of tomorrow at all. So we used to lose clients just because of our turnaround time in our earlier organization, where we used to take about 4 or 5 days. So this thought gave me an idea as to how I can speed up this entire process, right? So I thought about exploring technologies that are there in the market, because that's a time when Midjourney started picking up, and we're talking about last year September when we set up Blitzman Studio,
Hmm.
and Midjourney was picking up. The Leonardo was happening. The AI was in the forefront of a lot of things. There were these companies in Bangalore and India where they were exploring it, but they're not putting it out in the market. So I thought, why not embrace that rather than staying away from it, and make that into our advantage. So we started this company called Blitzman Studio. Blitz means
Mhm.
fast, and Mind and Studio explains itself. The idea is to have very fast turnaround time for the client, so that we are spending minimal amount of time in design. We are giving more time for construction, and that's a real
Hmm.
challenge in India with getting contractors and workers inside and stuff like that. So I thought that would be the right way to go about it, and started as a one person, two people firm. Is a 24 member team now, and very proud of the people I have in my team. Very proud.
So you have a mix of architects, designers, technologists working together with this
Absolutely.
new
Absolutely.
mindset.
Yeah, I mean, our logo is innovate, evolve, create, and we stick by that logo like anything. So we make sure that we are innovating ourselves, we're evolving ourselves, and you're creating something new. Every time we feel that there is something new in the market, we always
Hmm.
jump on that bandwagon. We try to learn it, conquer it, use it. It's a very simple. So we researched what around 210 AI softwares in the market now, and we have a PPT just in case somebody wants it, so that
Before we go
each.
there, Vineeth, we'll include that PPT as part of what we share with our viewers.
Sure.
Let's take a step back. Like, tell us what are the tools you're using today? I'm assuming like architects have sort of choices around where they need to design, how they need to visualize, preparing for client presentations. Like, walk us through a typical workflow that you use for your projects.
So generally we use obviously AutoCAD for your 2D
Mhm.
drawings and everything. Revit is an excellent tool, to be very frank, very exciting tool. Unfortunately, the kind of space that we are into workplace design, commercial real estate. We don't have the
Mhm.
time to develop a Revit model because that's a time because once you develop it, it can give you everything. It can give you from BOQs to sections to elevations, an amazing tool. But the thing is we don't have that time, so what we have to pivot, we have to be better at it. So we use SketchUp for rendering our model 3D models. We use Enscape and V-Ray for rendering. We use D5, Rhino, Grasshopper. So a lot of these softwares are at our disposal, and the best thing is I have an excellent 3D team, and they evolve themselves, they teach themselves. Now one person is learning Unreal Engine right now as we speak, so that we
Mhm.
can get into a different idea, which I'll come to during the later part of the discussion.
Right.
And these kind of softwares is something that we use. Uh, so to prepare for client presentation, so basically when we meet client, they want to have an idea of what they can get in as a design. And
Mm.
yeah, most of the clients know about Mid Journey, and there is this app which can generate. I mean, even you can do that on WhatsApp nowadays. So it's not something new to them. But the only thing is, if they have a clear idea of what they want, then they would not be clients, they'll be architects, right? So that's where we come in. We help them in understanding what they would want. We give them three, four options, three, four themes, so that, generally it's a thing in India, like, can I get more? Can I get three, four more options? So that, they are very clear as to what they are getting.
So that is one clear challenge, isn't it? Like you can't just go with one set of ideas. You need to have options. That means more work in terms of preparing those options.
Hmm.
Do you
So
also see challenges around architects understanding the space versus clients having a hard time figuring out how this might look like? Because we're talking about designs here, right?
right. It's a very interactive thing to do. Designing for someone. You want
Mm.
the end user to be part of that entire process. They should feel like they are part of the process, so that what they get at the end of it, they are satisfied with it. Because if, as an architect, if you are dictating most of the designs and you are saying this is what is good for you, at the end of it, what they get, they'll be like, no, this is your thought. I didn't want that. So it's very important to involve them in most of your discussions, so that they feel it's they were equally part of the design. And trust me, in India, most of our clients are designers. They come up with Pinterest images, Google images, and they're like, "This is what we want," and then we have to, extrapolate from that and generate AI images and show them something very different they've not seen.
So clients being aware of how designs should look like, needing multiple options and very low turnaround time, which creates a very clear need for innovation. Because if you keep doing the same time-taking workflow, you might not come up with the
It's
expectations that they might have, right?
Absolutely. It's a loop. It's a loop. You start at one, and then you go, and then you come back to the start. So just have to. We keep innovating ourselves when it comes to. So every time we get a new project, it's about what are we doing different in this project? How are we looking at it differently? We did this in the earlier project. What can we
Hmm.
do different? What new software can we plug in? What new things where can we get into our workflow? So that's where AI and VR have been exciting, because there is a lot of new things in the market. There is some lot of things for us to learn, us to adopt before we show to the client to what we are capable of.
So it's very clear that there is a need to explore these technologies. You have already spent a lot of time. We'll talk about VR primarily, but before we do that, how does that actually look inside an architecture from this search for, let's do AI? Like, do you have people who are doing this, dedicated to figuring out how to use AI, and what have you figured out so far? Has it changed the client experience in any way?
Yeah, I mean, we started with one person who is like a mid-journey guru. We call her in our team. She's figured out mid-journey how to put your exact requirements as a prompt and how to get the exact result that even mid-journey would not have thought of. So she has come up with. We have around what 20,000 images in our catalog right now as we speak, and yeah, Google storage is taking up a lot of that space right now for us. We are always looking to create new images, new ideas when we are looking at a new client requirement, because you have to innovate. The more you use the technology, the more technology can learn from you. That's a very important aspect, because that's a whole the other side of using AI. The AI can only get better if you keep using it. If there is number of users of it, I mean, you see the chat gpt, the level it has gotten to at this stage, it has only
Hmm.
improved because a lot of people are putting their inputs. That's a data that chat gpt wants. Same thing with the Midjourney. It has come to the version 6 only because there are a lot of people on it, just generating billions in a day images, right? So it's learning so much from our prompts, and that's making it better. So as architects, we have to keep using it to make the tool better so that it can generate good images for us, which will win me projects. So it's a win-win for both.
I'll put you on the spot here, though, Vineet. Like, there is the jury is out on whether a good prompt from an architect in Midjourney gets you the desired result, or is that still a far-fetched dream? Are you getting close to like actually what you would present as an architect
Yeah,
through prompts in AI?
we are 80% there, I would say that. I mean, it's still a work in progress. We are 80% there. We still have to tweak it, blend it, create versions of it, but we are 80% there. I mean, we can make the client understand as to what our thought is with that particular image. It used to, I mean, it started with version 4. It started with having some semblance, so they couldn't figure out the false ceiling at all mid-journey, right? And that's a very important part of any design, be it house or office. So it used to be very bad. It used to be like different layers merged together, lights hanging down, and it used to be very funny. We couldn't show that to clients, so we used to hide it. Now with version 6, we are getting there. They have understanding what is
Fantastic.
the different ceilings, and that's again purely based on the fact that we are using it.
Great. So while that's a whole different world, I guess a lot of the current projects still depend on tools that you mentioned before, Enscape, SketchUp. Let's dive into the traditional architectural design and rendering workflow, right? Um, I've seen some of your projects, they look amazing. Like, how are you actually
Thank you.
getting to that level of quality? Like, are you using Enscape? Walk us through the steps involved in creating a presentation.
So, I mean, generally when we get the requirement, we do a around 2-day turnaround time presentation using AI images. That's generally what the client wants with different themes, so that they know what is possible with respect to their requirement and the budget they have in mind. Very critical factor. We'll give them a mood board and a material board to make them understand what are the materials we are considering in what locations. Moving forward, they obviously would want to see the actual 3D. I mean, that's the end game, right? Before you get to construction, they want to experience 3D. In a general presentation before the VR was, introduced into our workflow, we used to generate one render for one room, maybe or two more renders for one room. So that's about it. Then the rest of the spaces behind that space where you're creating the render for is left to the client to imagine. And it left a lot of ambiguity on the table, because the client used to be like, what's happening in the other side, which I cannot see, which you have not shown. And that used to open up a big can of worm for us, because that's a thing that you have to create a different side, you have to work on it. This particular, so we have understood that using VR, you cannot cheat the system. You have to develop all the four sides, because you cannot tell client, don't look back, there is nothing there. So they are going to look back. They need to understand what is happening at the back, what is happening at ceiling, what is happening on the flooring. So VR has immensely helped us in plugging that gap. So now the clients, when as soon as they wear it, they're looking behind themselves. They're trying to walk. I mean, that's another funny instance we experience. Everybody wants to walk. I keep telling them, don't. It's a fixed environment. We want you to experience the space, not walking in it. But this has been our workflow right now. So it comes from 3D general. Immediately we jump to the VR. We show them the final, VR before they get to the construction stage. So the client gets a complete confidence as to what they are seeing is what they'll be delivered.
Hmm. So here I'm going to share my screen here so that people can see a quick recording of one of your projects. And maybe this is what helps people understand what we're talking about when you say people cannot walk. So
Exactly.
help people understand this workflow. So these are renderings coming out of Enscape. Is that
Yeah,
correct, Vineeth?
these are 360 images coming out of Enscape, yes. And this is the
So,
actual site image.
so when you say that people, probably earlier what you were doing is, let's say for this view, you would create this view in 2D and maybe have an option or two. But the challenge is that people don't fully get a understanding of how this space will look. And now what
Exactly.
you're doing is you're rendering it in 360, uploading it to Sentio, and then taking a
Right.
VR headset and showing it to them in an immersive fashion, right? So I'll
Absolutely.
just play this video. So in this particular project, like, can you talk us about, just in the case of, this project from Tata, what were the requirements? How did you go about using VR? Because a lot of people don't know. VR has evolved a lot over the last few years. So, there are
Absolutely.
questions around, is it still complicated to use? You guys have obviously cracked a workflow. So help us understand, how did you go about in this particular project while I play the recording for people to see?
So yeah, I mean, basically, it's once you develop the entire room. So if this would have been a 3D render, you just have to develop the front face that you're looking at. Since it's a
Okay.
VR, I have to develop all the sites. I have to look at the services that I'm putting in. The HVAC has to match to what will be actually done at site. The lightings has to match. So it's a lot of work initially because and that's very important because you can see the kind of complex design we have done for the lighting on the workstation. Those kind of elements, if they can see it in actual, and this you can see what is actually executed at site, how in 99% is matching to the requirement. It's
Is
it's
that a
very
real photo,
important.
by the way, Vinny? Is
This
this so?
is
This is
yeah,
a
this
re.
is
So I almost could not make out the difference between your render and the real photo unless I saw that this is actually completed. So, and I can see the people here. So, of course, I mean, you've done a
yeah.
great job at almost simulating reality here.
Thank you. That's what we tell the client, like because that's one of the question. Will I get what I'm seeing? I mean, that's a very important question that needs to be answered, and you keep telling them, yeah, this is the sample. You will get what you're gonna see. So
So I'm going to
we do.
take, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Go on, go on. No,
So I
I'm
was
done.
wondering, as you said that, is a lot of people, who use Sentio, they use Enscape and they have a headset, and then the question comes like, how do I actually set up my VR workflow? What you have done here is you've adopted this workflow of creating renderings, stereoscopic, uploading
Right.
them and taking them to a client meeting. Now, I want to actually double click on this workflow. Is that been something that has allowed you to use VR more? What has been the client experience around VR itself? Because what we are looking at here is a 2D experience, but the same experience can be very immersive when you put on the headset and actually see the scale. So help us
Absolutely.
understand how that Enscape to rendering to Sentio VR has actually worked out for you in this case, for example. Like, what was the client reaction like?
So they were not expecting it. I mean, this was our first project as a Blitzmind studio. This is the first project we took up, and
Right.
this is the first interaction with the ad we had with the client, and this is the first VR we did for any client, right? So for us, we were equally excited as the client as to how they would, take it, how they would enjoy it, because most of the people, I mean, I get this statement like, yeah, I've seen this in a mall. I know what a VR is. I've seen it as a video game. I said, I keep telling them, just wear it once so that you can understand the quality, you can understand the space that is going to be built for you. So the client was very happy about the interactiveness, the understanding of scale, the details when they put on the VR headset, and the flow from Enscape to the entire VR outflow when we are showing it to the client. For us, it's been immensely helpful to have Senkyo as a partner in this particular project and all the projects we work with. And we keep interacting with each other, giving you feedbacks, where we are facing hurdles and how you can help us out and how we can help you in understanding where we can sell this, because India is a big market. And if you are giving something new to the client, they lap it up. They want, because they've seen the design market to be very saturated right now. So anybody who can
Right.
offer something different as an experience, they are for it.
So it's so much that I want to pick your brain on when you say India is a big market. It's also a complicated market. Like people are in different
It is.
cities, traveling is a challenge. And people like to adopt technology. I feel like the challenge probably, but when I talk to architects, has been there's been this impression that it's very hard to do. You need a lot of tech to figure out like tables and PCs and VR headsets. And I think what you guys have done is just made it very simple. I actually wanted to show a video here of another project which I want to talk to you about. But as you can see here, no, it's just like a normal meeting and the client gets a VR experience right away. So
Exactly.
it's not a complicated setup as such. And maybe this is a good place to also talk about another project. So I can see another similar sort of experience, but very high quality, interactive, and
Yes.
available as links and VR. So what I want to actually pick your brain on, I think people understand the idea that looking at it in VR can help people understand a design, but are there any real like have you seen impact? That's I think an important question for architects to evaluate. Like, is there a real impact in your goals when you're trying to showcase in VR versus the traditional ways?
Absolutely. In fact, I've started this meeting directly on VR. I didn't even start my PC. I told them I've got this headset. This has your office in it. They were like, "How? What do you mean?" And Charles was there, and he's a very fun person to interact with. So he came from US for a week to see the renders, give us comments, finalize. He put on this VR for 15 minutes and he finalized the design. So you can understand that his plan was to be here in India for a week to finalize a design, which he did in 15 minutes because he could experience a design. That's a very important part in understanding what the client wants. So you could, I mean, he took 5 6 days to go around in Kerala for the time he had planned to interact with the architect team to design discuss. So that's an important part that took away from this entire experience was clients wants an experience. They want to
Hmm.
understand, they want to immerse themselves in the space they're going to spend most of the time. I mean, you're spending 9 hours in your office, you might as well experience them before you actually spend in it. So I clearly feel that is something that any client would love to use it. And to be
Hmm.
very frank, it's not that difficult of a workflow to follow. And we want to encourage a lot of architectural firms to take this up. To be very frank, because it's something that they can it can help them. And then I ask this question: is it not that you're encouraging your competition to get into the same this
Hmm.
thing? But I strongly believe you need competition in any market because that's going to challenge my team to go to the next level. Otherwise, we are very comfortable in using VR, but now we are looking at the next stage of presentation, which I'll come to you in the next stage of this discussion.
Right. So to summarize this thought, clients need to understand designs. That's a crucial part of this entire work that you're putting in. And what happened in this case is that instead of maybe a multiple meetings, in one meeting, you're able to close the design review.
That's the
That
case of
means
most of my projects.
that's incredible in terms of the impact because then all that time that you would have spent and the client would have spent in rework gets invested into moving the project faster and probably as an
Absolutely.
architecture firm for you doing more projects and investing more in research and development. So this is a very good example, I believe, in terms of like very I've seen a lot of marketing videos, and but these are the cases which kind of build a strong case for any architect or any architecture firm to dive deeper into in enabling these workflows, because as we see, we're not talking about doing everything that you're doing and separate differently. You're still using Enscape, just that you're bringing it into 360 and VR and getting this impact.
Right.
Now,
No, the only thing is you have to understand the client requirement so that the design is more or less what he's looking for.
absolutely, which is the reason why an architecture or design firm is being hired to do that job in the first place. But the traditional challenges
Absolutely.
that you mentioned is where technology is bridging that gap between what you are imagining and what the client has in mind. So I think that's the key um, benefit from what I'm hearing. Now, you've already talked about some of the productivity gains. Like, I'm curious to know where is this going, because I've been in this space for some time. I've talked to a lot of architects, and there has been this, you know, curves of like very high interest and then low interest. Like what I'm trying to understand here is what is your thought? Like, where is this technology going? Let's talk about VR from your sense. Are you seeing this being used in India in more projects? Are you guys are obviously the pioneers here from what I see, but what else are you seeing here?
So I believe a lot of architects are trying to get into this. There's a lot of these big firms who have already showcased, part of their deliverables that VR is one of the experience that we can deliver. Now, I feel that that's a bandwagon that everybody should be in because, to be very frank, there's so much technology in the market that you have to experience it, you have to learn it, you have to study it, you have to use it because it's very simple, right? So if you are not using it, if you are not learning it, you are missing the boat. So there is this very simple thing for me, like either you are on the train which is taking you to the future, or you are at the station and looking at the train go by. So I
Mm,
want to be the one who is driving the train. So I've challenged my team to be the locomotive drivers, understand the technology so that you guys are doing something very different. So that's what I came
mm,
to. Like now we have done VR. Now what next? We have this idea of doing using Unreal Engine and Centio VR. Again, we'll come back to you as a discussion, separate discussion. Putting in our avatars in a office space, right? And that avatar is taking you inside the office space as a walkthrough. Now,
mm,
imagine you are a client based in US who is trying to open an office in India. Imagine the experience that you would have to have an experience like that. As in, you were just walking around in your space, and there is an avatar to take you around, to tell you what this space is. That's basically a virtual presentation we are talking about. So we just going to the next level. Then we have this idea of having video games. I mean, you have already generated the entire world in virtual, right? You have your office space in virtual reality. Why not create games in it? You keep your
mm.
employees engaged. Why don't you get them to office by offering something different from other offices? So that, okay, you spend what, 20 minutes, half an hour in a day engaging, asking them to engage in a video game where they're playing against each other in your office environment. I feel that's a very interesting thought. That's something that me and you have to discuss as to how we can materialize that. And I think those kind of things is something that is going to be the future. Because
Mm.
when I say that the world has gone virtual, literally we have the entire earth in the virtual world right now as we speak. It's just about
Mm.
figuring out how we can show it to more people and get more people to adopt the same technology.
What I'm hearing is like breaking down barriers, like, people in different locations, but in the same space, virtually collaborating avatars.
Absolutely.
I believe that is something that is, in
Already
some
there.
cases already happening, but people need to get more familiar with the technology to, as you've already, let's say done in the case of in-person client meetings, now you've made it easy. Everybody knows how to do it, people feel comfortable. Maybe that's where this is going next, and a whole lot of other ideas that we have to discuss. I see that we are closing in on our time limit, but I want to
Yeah.
make sure that I end this with, first of all, a big thank you to you, Vineeth. I think,
Welcome.
from my perspective, Sentio VR is working today with top tier architecture firms globally. And I invited you specifically for our first live session because I feel like Blitzmind has really taken up the leadership in exploring these technologies, not just from a high level, but actually putting it into workflows, getting impact out of it as we talked. So it was a wonderful session for me to discuss with
Pleasure.
you
Same
and
here.
pick your brain. But from your side, closing comments, words, for anybody to who's listening to us.
Yeah, I mean, anybody has any doubts as to how you would want to use this in your workflow? If at all you're a design firm listening in, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to make you part of our world. If you are a client who's looking to experience this, again, you can reach out to us and we can make sure that you are having a wonderful experience as to what VR can bring to the entire experience of having a space designed. We feel that, as I said, it's a world which is going towards everything is technology right now. Everything is futuristic. So it's about adapting, evolving, and creating new things.
Fantastic. With those words, Vineeth, I think we can wrap it up. It has been a wonderful session. I think we've covered really practical workflows, impact, how you're doing it, where is this going. As you can see on the screen, you have the contact information and the website of Blitzmind Studios. If you're looking for top tier design work, please, I think they are a great company to talk to. If you're looking for
Thank you,
technology,
everyone.
VR related workflows, Cynthia VR, feel free to reach out to our team as well. I will from on this note, I think I will end the stream. This was our first live stream, Vineet. So I thank you for taking up this time and talking to us. And the recording of this will be available to all the viewers who couldn't join on time. So thank you and have a great day. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.